Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that couldn't be more grateful that it was forced to learn how to play the recorder in the 4th grade. Comes in useful every day. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at The British Way, Counterinsurgency at the End of Empire from GMT Games.
We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review.
In The British Way from GMT Games, over the course of 4 different games, players take on the roles of either the British desperately trying to hold on to their empire or insurgents trying to break away from the Union Jack. Now, this game is actually really 4 games. You have 4, I guess you'd say, scenarios. The first one is Palestine, then you have Malaya, then you have Cyprus, and you have Kenya. Now, just to be clear, I have only played the Palestine and Malaya scenarios here. I haven't played the other 2 games yet. Now, the British game is a coin game, or games, as it were. And of course, each game is slightly different. So I'm not going to do a real rules breakdown for each of these games. I'm just going to give you the basics. Now, critically, at the beginning of the game, you will have a track. Each player will have their kind of their pieces on this track on the bottom, which has 2 sides to it. Now, you go from left to right. The person on the left has the option of picking any of the 3 options above, and they are essentially kind of a weak action you can take on the left. You can take the event action in the middle, or you can take a strong action on the right. So you may want to take a strong action, but you may want the option to do the event, so you may choose the lesser action at the time, and that's kind of how your initiative works in the game. But critically, when a card comes out, depending on who gets that option, they can either play the card to help them. And again, you've got the British who are trying to maintain the hold, using police forces, using troops. You have got the insurgents. Very oftentimes, they've got weapons caches, or they've got other forms of control over these areas. In some of the games, you'll be rolling die to determine all sorts of things. Other games aren't that die heavy. But critically, in these decks, there are usually three propaganda cards. When a propaganda card comes out, essentially you're going to score on the board, and you're also going to gain more actions and abilities to do things on the board. Off to the side, you're going to have a political will track, so that during scoring, of course, when those propaganda cards come up, the insurgent player is going to want that to get all the way down to the bottom of that track. The British players trying to keep their political will strong to maintain their hold over that country. Now, when players actually choose actions, very often they're accompanied by kind of like a secondary action. Now, again, if you on the kind of initiative track there, if you choose the weak action, you don't get to do one of these secondary actions. But if you choose the strong action, you can do that action plus one of these secondary actions. And these things can be very powerful over the course of the game. So players are going back and forth. They are selecting their actions. They are doing the event cards. They are pulling out those propaganda cards and having to score and move up and down on the political will track. And whoever succeeds in fulfilling their victory criteria for that game wins the British way. Counterinsurgency at the end of Empire. So as I say, this is kind of a difficult game to review because there are 4 different games and they're all different. And I've read the rules for them, but I've only played the first 2. and I played them with Ray. And this is the first coin game I've ever played. I've wanted to play coin games for a long time, but I've always been very intimidated by them. And frankly, when I started playing this, I was very intimidated by it. But as you play the game, within 2 or 3 turns, it's like, oh, that's what that means. Oh, that's what that means. And so the game becomes more intuitive as you play it, but you really kind of need to learn it by playing it, right? It's not something that's easily explained. Concepts I didn't get just from reading the rule books here. Looking at this game strictly on its merits, as I say, as the game went on and we became more comfortable with what the actions were and what we could do and what we were trying to accomplish, this became a very tight race and very strong scenarios here. And we played the first one, the Palestinian one, and it was tough. And we were trying to, I'm trying to hold on to the empire. Ray is trying to screw me over left and right to be able to get me out of Palestine there. And it's the story that plays out is just intense. It gives me that same kind of a feeling as a Twilight Struggle, although this is much shorter. I think we played this in about an hour, a little over an hour. So it's a much. It gives you that same kind of a feeling as a Twilight Struggle. And Ray ended up winning. He ended up pulling this one out. Then we played the second game, and I was amazed at how different and yet how similar it was. It's very different in some ways. In the second game, there wasn't a lot of dice rolling, but there's still kind of the basic way you play with the options with the card and with the way you trigger actions and secondary actions, although the actions were different. It's very interesting. So that too just was really engaging, discovering these things and finding them out and the differences and the nuances here. That second game, I thought Ray was going to win, and then in the end, I made a push and I got some political will, and I'm thinking I'm going to win, and then it turned out it was a draw. We actually were right on. I think it was like if it's more than 10, the British win. If it was under 10, the insurgents won, and it was right at 10, which was a draw. So I was like, but it's a fun game. It's really good. I really like I say, discovering the nuances of this game, because this is a game that is filled with nuance. And I've got to be honest, I've always wanted to play the coin games, like I say, but I've always been kind of intimidated by them. I'd really like to play some more. I mean, there's some that I've seen that I thought just looked fantastic. I really wanted to play the American Revolution one. I think it was Liberty and Death. I really wanted to play the American Revolution one. I still do. My issue is I'm still trying to get a game group together here in the Boise area. So if you are in the Boise area and you want to play games, let me know, because I'd love to play with you. But once I get a firm group there, I'd really like to play one of these coin games 4-player, because to me that just sounds awesome. And of course, I've heard good things about Fire in the Lake and Cuba Libre and all the others. And so I'd like to explore this system more. I'm really glad I had this introductory system. I know they're doing a Robin Hood one, a 2-player Robin Hood one that sounds really cool. And then I know there's going to be a science fiction one, like on Mars, that also sounds freaking awesome. Really want to check all these out. And I really loved the British Way. I can't wait. I'm itching. The problem is I got so many games I got to review. I often kind of can't spend too much time looking at one here, but I want to play this one some more. I want to play these other scenarios and find out the full depths of what this game can do. This is one that's going to be hitting the table again for sure. So that is the British Way, Counterinsurgency at the End of Empire, and my recommendation is 100% buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, I ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history, books on history. I even upload some of my lectures on that channel. Please go ahead, please check that out, please subscribe to that channel. It would mean a lot to me. And I'd ask you to please leave a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. That also helps us out a lot as well. And if you are a fan of the channel, I'd ask you to please go ahead and click on our Super Thanks button here on the YouTube page and consider leaving a contribution. We would really appreciate it. You know, once upon a time, there was a drill sergeant, and he was chewing out all of his soldiers. And he was getting some dirty looks, so he said, "You know, I'll bet when I die, you'll come and dance on my grave." And one of the soldiers said, "No, sir, not me. I won't dance on your grave." And the drill sergeant said, "Really?" And the soldier said, "Yep. I promised after I get out of the army, I'm not going to stand in any more lines." Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. God knows that I love to find
Oh, there's a game, oh, what you play it for? It's for having fun and learning about the Cold War. Your mind like a mental pack of sharks. We'll be putting people in their place like Karl Marx. Spreading influence across the globe in one of the best stories ever told. Twilight Struggle. Play it on the double. Communist troubles in Twilight Struggle. Some Jews would rather stay home with their girlfriends and snuggle, but I